everyone, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. I'm here to the East Village and the Riverwalk in Calgary, Canada, and today we are going to be talking about Bitcoin hard forks. Two in particular, Bitcoin Gold and SegWit 2x. Though many of the lessons and points that we go over in this video will likely be able to be applied to future forks of Bitcoin if and when they happen. So let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's figure out what is a hard fork. Well, simply put, a hard fork is a change to the underlying rules that govern Bitcoin. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about two different types of hard forks. One would be a friendly fork, and the second would be more of an adversarial fork. Now, what do I mean by friendly or adversarial? Well, in a friendly fork, you would have an instance where somebody takes the Bitcoin blockchain, clones it entirely, adds in or changes the rules that they would like to see changed, and anybody holding Bitcoin would now be holding this altcoin. And it's important to note that in this friendly instance, this alternative coin would say exactly that. We are different than Bitcoin. We are not Bitcoin. So somebody holding Bitcoin now just has the added bonus of having ownership of a new coin. If you had one Bitcoin, you would now have one of whatever this new coin is because it's copied the entire ledger over from Bitcoin and gone on from there with the new rule set. Now, what about adversarial? Well, it's pretty much the same. You clone the Bitcoin blockchain, you change some rules, and anybody holding Bitcoin would have the same amount on the new chain, but in this instance, the new chain is trying to say it is Bitcoin. It wants people to convert over to these new rule sets and ignore the old chain. So it's trying to steal the mantle of the title of Bitcoin. Alright, so what forks are coming to Bitcoin and what kind of forks are they? I'm going to start here with Bitcoin Gold. So Bitcoin Gold is a friendly hard fork coming up in late October, early November. What the people behind Bitcoin Gold have decided to do is make a change to the rule about how Bitcoin is actually mined. This means that they are trying to get away from something called ASIC mining, and when changing this rule, what they're hoping is that mining will become more decentralized, so you won't have giant companies mining Bitcoin, but rather individuals on their home computers. So what do you need to do to prepare for the Bitcoin Gold hard fork, and are you eligible to receive any? Well, the answer is pretty simple. You do not need to do anything other than get your Bitcoin in a wallet that you own the private keys to. So ideally off of an exchange, because you're not sure how exchanges are going to handle this. So if you're holding Bitcoin in a wallet, a paper wallet, a wallet on your phone, a hardware wallet, as of October 25th, whatever amount of Bitcoin you're holding, you're going to be holding the same amount of Bitcoin Gold. So if I have one Bitcoin, I now have one Bitcoin Gold. It remains to be seen what one Bitcoin Gold will be valued at. After November 1st, you will be able to retrieve that coin using software that the developers behind Bitcoin Gold have created, and you will be able to then do as you wish with it. You can keep it, you can sell it, whatever you choose. So what about SegWit 2x? What about that fork? Well, this is going to be taking up the bulk of the video because with SegWit 2x, things are a lot more nuanced and it's a lot more of a contentious issue. So let's dive into everything we have here. As I'm sure you've inferred, the SegWit 2x hard fork is more of an adversarial fork. This hard fork was conceived in something called the New York Agreement, put together by a man by the name of Barry Silbert. And what happened was a number of companies got together, companies and miners, and decided that the best way forward was to implement something called SegWit, which was a bug fix, and then later on implement something called a 2 megabyte hard fork, which would allow for more transactions per second. Now, I'm not going to get into the details behind what these two changes actually do to the network, but rather about how this was conceived. So SegWit is now active. It fixed a bug for something called transaction malleability, which you don't necessarily need to know how that works, but it was a long-standing bug in Bitcoin that did need to be fixed. And as I said, a 2 megabyte hard fork, or an increase in the block size, just allows for more transactions per second. With SegWit being active, the only remaining part of this agreement is the 2 megabyte hard fork. And this is the contentious part of the agreement. The addition of 2 megabyte blocks does not have the support of the majority of developers that have been working on Bitcoin over the past number of years. However, a number of companies have decided to go forward with it anyways and go with a brand new dev team. Some companies have now come out saying that it's irresponsible to leave the current dev team behind and go with a smaller, less experienced group of people. Those companies have fully rejected the 2x or the 2 megabyte hard fork and will be ignoring it entirely. Whereas other companies have said that the 2 megabyte hard fork will be the true Bitcoin. So what do you, as a user, need to do in preparation for the SegWit 2x hard fork? Number 1, get any important transactions done before the hard fork happens. The fork should happen somewhere in mid-November, though we can't be sure until it gets closer, as the number of blocks mined per day can vary and it is set for a specific block number. Number 2, decide which side of the fork you'd ideally like to be on, and then find a wallet that supports that side. Regarding companies, wallets, exchanges, and services that support the current rule set or the SegWit 2x rule set, I will have a list and links below to companies that explicitly support core or the current rule set, that explicitly support 2x or the upcoming changes, and the ones that will follow wherever the miners go. Number 3, do not make any transactions on the day of the fork or in the couple days following the fork until things settle down. So, which side of the fork of the New York Agreement or the Bitcoin Core Protocol do I support, and why? Well, if you've been following me on social media, you probably already know, but I'm going to dive into which side I support and why right now. My stance on this issue is that while a moderate block size increase would likely be okay, I am very much against SegWit 2x. Why? Number 1 is the way that it came about through the New York Agreement. You had a series of CEOs getting together and deciding the fate of a protocol that is based around their business models. And I believe that it should be the other way around. The protocol should dictate what businesses are attracted to it. The issue here is, once a business model gets to dictate how a protocol works, then that could put the users at risk. While I don't believe anybody in the New York Agreement is currently malicious in their intent, that doesn't mean that will be the case next time around. We set a dangerous precedent when we start letting companies decide how the protocol will work. My second reason surrounds the developers. If my money is based on a protocol, then I want the best developers in the room working on it. The core dev team is comprised of some of the most genius computer scientists on the planet. Not only that, but these guys are the original cypherpunks that were fighting for anonymity and censorship resistance for the internet for decades now. When I look at the core protocol, it has attracted the best minds in the industry. When you look across the aisle to SegWit 2x, well, it seems pretty sparse. Not only that, but the people that are developing for core, they're free to develop for whoever they want to. So when you look across, I don't see an influx of developers crowding around to get in on SegWit 2x. And for me, that is a no-go. I don't want second best, I want the best for my currency. And furthermore, when it comes to development, SegWit 2x is missing something very important called replay protection. This means if somebody spends money on one chain, that transaction can be replayed on the other chain. To put it simpler, if you paid a merchant in Bitcoin, somebody could go and redo that transaction on the SegWit2x chain afterwards. Or vice versa, if somebody was spending the SegWit2x version of Bitcoin, they could replay that on the regular Bitcoin chain and have that transaction go through. So while you're meaning to pay with only one version of Bitcoin, you're essentially now having to pay with both, or at least opening yourself up to the possibility of somebody exploiting that and stealing from the other chain in your wallet. And my final reason has to do with what the value of these currencies are going to be after the split. A Bitcoin exchange by the name of Bitfinex has launched a futures market. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's just a way of people trading the tokens before they actually come into existence. So you're allowed to essentially say what you would be willing to pay for the SegWit2x fork versus the regular Bitcoin Core protocol. Well, it's not looking good for SegWit2x. At the time of recording this video, one SegWit2x token, or their version of Bitcoin, is worth 0.15 Bitcoin, or only 831 US dollars, versus the nearly 5,500 US dollars that regular Bitcoin is currently worth. This is a difference of nearly 4,700 US dollars per coin, or about 85%. Now this is why it's important to find a wallet that supports the chain that you want. Imagine if your wallet was supporting SegWit2x and they considered that to be the real Bitcoin. You wake up in the morning, you check your Bitcoin balance, you've got the same number of Bitcoin, but suddenly that Bitcoin is worth 85% less. I imagine you might just be a little upset. So, I encourage you, if you're going to support either side of this chain, to take a look at some of the links below, decide which way you'd like to go, and go to those wallets. Because if you make a mistake here, and you're with a company that supports the wrong chain, you may be very unpleasantly surprised when you wake up the morning of the fork. And on a final, more positive note, if you're just looking for a way to profit off these forks, then the absolute best thing you can do is just grab some Bitcoin before October 25th and ride them both out, holding all the coins and then deciding what to do afterwards. The key thing to know here is that you have to have your Bitcoin on a wallet or a set of private keys that you yourself control, because if you leave them on an exchange, then your coins are at the mercy of that exchange and if they want to support the upcoming forks. So, with that said, I hope that I've now armed you with an arsenal of at least a little bit more knowledge when it comes to Bitcoin hard forks. I will of course be doing videos on how to access your forked coins once I find a user-friendly, easy way to do so that I also deem to be safe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize that I couldn't get even more in depth here, but I'm trying to keep this video to a reasonable length. Please do check out the links that I provide below for more information and use things like Reddit, Twitter, and other sources to check out and decide for yourself. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, drop a tip if you're able to, and share this video. If you'd like to support the show in another way, please check my affiliate link below and grab yourself a Ledger or Trezor hardware wallet to secure your Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I will see you guys next time on the BTC Sessions.